Hello and welcome to the Educators podcast. I am Vishal Bagaita, the founder of Educator and your host for this podcast. Educator is an online marketplace where students can get access to video courses, downloadable documents and tutors to help them study for their exams. The Educators podcast is an opportunity for you to learn more about what goes into creating the learning resources on the website. You can hear more about our latest resources and discounts by registering today at educator.com and signing up to the newsletter. In our first episode, we are joined by Dr Graham Bray, a very experienced science educator. Listen in as he tells us about the most enjoyable years of his career, the workflow behind his video courses, and what he's working on at the moment. Hello, Graham. Thank you very much for joining me today for our first Educators podcast. Please could you introduce yourself, providing some insight into your experience in the education sector?
Hi, Vishal. Well, nice to talk to you. Thank you for inviting me along to this podcast. Just want to say, I've been in teaching now for 33 years, which sounds an awful long time. I've taught in a variety of schools across the southeast. I'm a scientist by training, a degree in biology and a PhD in biological sciences. And then I've been a science teacher, I've been a head of science and also a director of STEM, which is perhaps the most exciting part of my teaching career.
Okay, thank you very much. And with all of this significant experience that you have in teaching, it would be good to understand the impact of technology on the way that you have taught. What have been the key step changes?
So do you want some sort of historical record about how it's sort of impacted on my teaching?
I think so. I think that would be useful, and not necessarily going through the evolution, but I think those steps where you thought there was a step change, where it really changed the way where you did things, I think those would be useful to understand.
I think the first big step change, well, when I first got into teaching, this is like 30 years ago, computers were a novelty in the classroom. They really were. The first thing I think we started using computers for data logging. And data logging suddenly became a very, very hot thing that everybody had to have data loggers. And that sort of went well for a number of years, but then it sort of phased out. And then we got into particularly PowerPoint. So PowerPoint was a big introduction in the classroom, and suddenly everyone's producing PowerPoints, which is all well and good. And in fact, when I'm teaching, I still use them. So obviously they are a good technology to use. We then went into the phase of everybody had to have a laptop. This was one of the key selling points. I know a number of schools actually said, our school's great because we give our students laptops. And that was a big selling point. And then when I left the classroom, which was just over 2 years ago, we really were heavily into iPads. So iPads became the thing to have. So that it has evolved over the years, and it's become the latest fashion. And it's been interesting to see how some things have kept in there and other things have dropped by the wayside. So I don't think that many schools these days are offering as a selling point, we have laptops. If they've got them, that's great, but it's not a real selling point. Everybody uses PowerPoint, everybody uses data projectors. All these things have now become part and parcel of teaching. And it's the way they're just evolving. We have novelties. When the iPads came out, that was a real novelty, and everybody's writing apps for iPads. And again, that seems to settle down. Let's say I've been out teaching now for 2 years, but I haven't really seen any significant technological advances in the time I've been away.
Sure. And in the sort of latter years of your time in teaching, how do you think that the students' expectations change with respect to the use of technology in the classroom? So you talked about the transition to laptops and tablets in the form of iPads and things like that. Did you see a difference in the relationship between students and teachers as a result?
There's much more of a move towards self-directed learning. So the fact is, you've got a laptop, you've got an iPad, you've got a phone, and there is very much the facility to find things out for yourself. So A lot of teachers would go down the self-directed learning. Oh, this is the issue. We're looking today at stem cells, research. And some of it was quite bland in terms of it was lesson today is researching about stem cells without sufficient direction to lead students, because using this technology is new to them. How do you use laptops in the classroom? It was a new technology. So, yeah, the students started to have expectations. There was an expectation that you'd use PowerPoint. It was just part of the classroom. There was an expectation that you would start to introduce research through laptops, or you'd be booking computer suites. And it became more the norm. Years ago, when we first started using computer suites, it was a novelty, and they'd be very, very excited. Oh, we're going to computer room today. This is fantastic. But that changed. And so now it's become the norm to actually go and research a topic. I think there is the expectation these days that technology will be used in the classroom, but a good teacher will balance use of technology with good teaching craft, which means standing at the front, doing the anecdotes, all those sorts of things that make a good teacher a good teacher. And those things have to continue alongside of introducing technology into the classroom.
Okay. And you mentioned at the outset when you talked about your background as Director of STEM as being the more exciting part of your career. How has that informed your views on how you see the education system changing in future?
I could talk for hours about this topic because I'm so passionate about it. When I was Director of STEM, I found myself in a really fortuitous situation. At my school, we'd just built a flexible learning centre, which was in fact a beautiful building full of technology. We'd been given funding to put this thing together, and the guy that created the whole thing, he was getting cutting edge, what was at that time cutting edge. We had 3D videos, we had 3D projectors, we had immersive teaching. It was incredible what we had. And as I was Director of STEM, and my dream was always to integrate technology into that sort of environment. So for about 3 years, I was let loose. I was like a kid in a candy shop. It was lovely in that I had a really good technician who understood the technology. If you don't have people there who understand it, you're going to struggle big time. We had this one guy who was really, really good at the technical side, and he knew what to do. So when I said, we need a 3D video of this, he created. When I say we need to use immersive technology room, he would have kids walking basically on the floor of the sea, and they'd be surrounded by the sea and starfish jumping away from their feet. It was an incredible setup, it really was. And
wow.
It was amazing. And what I did, I used to run clubs. So on a Saturday morning, I would have up to 20 primary school, year 5 and 6. These are 10, 11-year-old kids, boys and girls. And they'd come along and we'd have 2 hours of just immense fun. And we would be watching video perhaps as introduction. Then we'd start thinking about making something like a cutout of the human body that had, do you ever remember, there used to be a game called Operation where you had to take, we actually created those little people with electronics. And so, whenever you touched a wire, there'd be a buzzer going off. And the enjoyment that those kids got out of using the technology in that environment was immense. And we used to invite the parents in at the end of the session. The parents sit at the back. And my IT technician would have recorded everything. And somehow in 10 minutes, he'd put together a video of the whole morning. And parents would sit there watching their kids getting totally immersed in science, technology, bit of engineering, bit of maths. And it was just an amazing, amazing time. And what I then did, I then took the idea out to local schools. So I would go around to local schools and I would take in simple experiments. And again, particularly I was working with years 5 and 6 because they're the most easily influenced in terms of technology. They were fantastic. And also what was interesting was we'd have a fair split boy-girl. There was no gender disparity as there is perhaps for the school. And we go into primary schools and we do these great simple experiments. They come back into my technology centre. They would use the technology, and it was just an amazing time. In fact, all my 30 odd years of teaching, I would say without question of doubt, those were my happiest 3 years were actually working with kids on the STEM agenda in this incredible technology environment.
Okay, so certainly you would sound to be one of the sort of supporters of the use of technology to advance educational outcomes for young people. Are there any things you think we should be aware of, or anything we should think about in terms of the role of the teacher in that particular environment?
The teacher has to be the filter. The teacher is the filter. I mean, we hear so much these days about social media. There is a role for all these things in education. We have to always filter out things we don't want and focus on what we do. It's like when I was doing the STEM, almost like you're a conductor of a mini orchestra. You're bringing things in, all over the place. And it was just putting it all together into a package that the kid's going to enjoy, it's going to be safe for them, and it's going to inspire them to actually. I had students in year 9 who taught themselves how to program in Python. And they would then get other kids into the technology centre, and they teach them how to program in Python. So it was really, really amazing to see the kids teaching their peers. And that was one of the biggest processes I saw going on that I really, really enjoyed.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you for that. So I do want to move on because I think there's a lot to talk about. And you have been the first person to add materials to the educator site. You created courses on Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3 science, which I'm really grateful for you to sort of have added to the site. There's a lot of work that's gone into creating these. Could you tell me a bit more about how you got into creating video courses?
Yeah, it started a number of years ago now. I was as well as my teaching, I was doing some private tuition. I've never, ever gone out and sought private tuition. It seems to have found me. And I was asked to help with a girl who was being homeschooled. So I went into when I visited the house, and I would go through it. And within the first week, it became so obvious that this girl had no science knowledge whatsoever. And I'm thinking, I've got to prepare this girl for exams in like 18 months. How am I going to do it? So what I did at that point, I actually made a decision to start creating videos. And no idea what I was doing. No idea what I was doing at all. It was the first one off. So I started doing PowerPoints, then recording them. And so every week, looking back, I don't know how I find time to do it because it is quite labor intensive. I would go to this girl's house. I'd have a video disc for the following week, and she'd watch the previous video disc, and we worked through questions. And yeah, it was a way of actually getting this girl to cope with the knowledge that she needed. And that was it. That's how I started creating video courses, and it all snowballed from there, really.
Okay. And then how did the decision to cover so much of the science syllabus come about? So you talk about it snowballing, but it's quite a significant commitment to cover the various key stages. Was that purely driven by the needs of this one girl, or was there something more about what you thought was required for other students?
It's been a bit of a demand, really, in that, I created the course for this girl. And it went well. It did go well. And I started getting other people interested in the videos, which we can talk about later on if you want to. But then someone said to me, what about Key Stage 3? We need... I can actually remember it was a school in Tenerife. A school in Tenerife who were trying to teach the British syllabus was struggling. And they said to me, could you create a Key Stage 3 video course? And me naively sort of, okay, yeah, no problem at all. A year later, I got the course finished. It took a whole year to complete that. There's 120 videos, I think, on my Key Stage 3 course. And it's quite a time demand. But having done that, my Key Stage 3 videos got picked up on social media. And the social media group said to me, well, what about Key Stage 2? We got parents out there, particularly homeschool parents who want their child to have a Key Stage 2 curriculum. Can you do the videos? So again, naively, oh yeah, sure, no problem. So, a year later, just before Christmas, I actually finished the Key Stage 2. So yes, that's how it came about, and that's why no one's asked me yet for Key Stage 1, and I'm hoping they never do. And the other thing is, I'm not at the moment contemplating Key Stage 5 because I believe that many people out there far better than me in terms of knowledge who could do that.
Sure. Okay. And you talked about your journey into creating these videos. It started obviously from the private tutoring that you did. Could you give some insight into how the different modes of teaching vary? So you've obviously got classroom training that you did for a number of years. You've got the online tutoring, and then this most recent form of teaching via the pre-recorded videos. How would you compare and contrast those three different modes?
As a teacher, nothing beats standing in front of a class. Nothing beats that. When you've got a class of students and you've got them literally eating out your hand as you explain something and you see those light bulb moments come about, nothing beats it. So although I've done all these videos, the problem with the videos is they're very one-sided. It's me giving information. But I do get such amazing feedback from parents, which I'll share in just a second. So online tutoring, again, that came about as a request from somebody. We live in Athens. My daughter needs tutoring. Can you do online? And I've never done it before. So I decided to give it a go. And now I actually really thoroughly enjoy Skyping with students. Because you sit with Skype, you can bring in PowerPoints, you can bring in worksheets, you can surf the web together. There's a whole lot of things you can do online. And again, it's like being a sort of magician. You're bringing things in left, right, and centre. We've seen this, we've seen that, or whatever. I'm standing here actually with my hands gesticulating. You can't see this, but I get so excited by it. So online teaching in the classroom, can't beat it. It's that experience. But online tuition, you can start bringing in all these different resources. And then you've got the actual recording of videos. Now, it is quite one-sided in that it's me talking, hopefully, to a student when they watch the recording. But what the nice thing is the feedback I get. I get so much feedback from parents saying, because a lot of my students are homeschooled. A lot of my students are homeschooled with special needs. And so many parents say, my son, daughter couldn't cope in mainstream school. They couldn't cope with the noise. They couldn't cope with distractions. They couldn't cope with X, Y, and Z. Your videos have been, literally, this is no exaggeration, I've had parents say to me, your videos have been a lifesaver. And to me, that's very moving. That really is. I think I have made that impact on students through pre-recorded videos. And so that's what motivates me, is the positive feedback I get from parents about how my videos have impacted on their lives.
Okay, that's great. I'd like to now sort of peer behind the curtain a little and try and understand a bit more about your process for creating these videos. Can you give us some insight into some of the tools that you use? So what hardware and software do you use to create the videos?
Sure, no problem. The basis of all my videos is PowerPoint. So PowerPoint is the basic teaching tool. So I create the PowerPoint slides. The next stage is to record those, and for that I use software called Camtasia. There's a free one called Cam Studio, which I started off with a number of years ago. I did start off with Cam Studio, but now I use Camtasia, and Camtasia is a really, really good, powerful video creation software, and that's what I use to go through, record the PowerPoints as I'm speaking through them. I do have a tablet. I use a tablet sometimes to help me, and I also use one of Camtasia's tools called Snagit. Snagit's really good for capturing images that I want to put onto the PowerPoint. So my basic tools are PowerPoint, Camtasia, Snagit, and then the internet. That's probably it. That's probably what I use to create the videos.
Sure. Okay. And then you talked a bit there about the preparation phase before you actually record the videos. Could you tell me a bit more about that? So how much time do you start investing into the preparation phase for each video, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I yes. Give it a time scale straight away. I would probably spend somewhere between 4 and 6 hours on the lesson preparation in terms of putting the slides together, getting them in the right order, getting the images I want. This is why when I said to you about I couldn't, when I first started, I was doing these every week as well as teaching. Looking back now, I don't know how I had the time to do it, but you just find that time. Where there's a need, you can find it. But no, so I always start with specification. Specification is my starting point. So, for example, I might be using Edexcel or AQA or whatever, and I'll get all the specification, break it down into components. I know from the very beginning what I'm going to be, how many videos I'm going to be doing, what their content's going to be. I use things like the textbooks. I particularly use a lot of the CGP study guides. I think they owe me, because I think I have recommended them so many times. I should be a major stakeholder in that company. But CGP are so good. I love CGP.
Yeah.
So a lot of that content is good. Yeah, go on. So you can ask.
Yeah, so that's really helpful actually to understand the time that you put in. And obviously that's curating the content on the slides. Do you tend to script your videos or do you prefer to adlib?
Really good question. Really good question. I'm an adlibber in that many years ago, I was making short videos to people about how to create videos. I was actually creating videos, teach people how to create videos. That makes sense. And I scripted those. So I had very, very precise scripts typed out in front of me. And as I was going through, I'd read it out. But then a guy who'd been mentoring me in America, who I really did appreciate his views, just said to me, it's lost all its spontaneity. It is so almost robotic. There's no spontaneity in your videos because you're reading from a script. It is so obvious. I mean, in my teaching, I've never used lesson notes that I read out to the class. I've never done that. Everything's been spontaneous. And I think to make the videos most interesting, that's English, I would always ad-lib. I never, ever use a script. And if I make a mistake, well, sometimes I'm honest and admit it on video. Other times, using Camtasia, you can go back, you can edit, you can cut things out. You make a mistake, you get a calculation wrong or something, you can always correct it. So, so I am a addict to ad-libbing, without doubt.
Sure. Okay. And so you talked about spending, say, 4 to 6 hours on the slide preparation or content preparation. And then, the recording of the video will naturally depend on how much material you choose to cover. How much time tends to go into the editing part of the process?
The videos vary in length according to the key stage I'm working with. I actually found that when I'm working with the older ones who are doing GCSEs, for example, they can cope with 15 to 20 minutes of video input. You try giving that to a key stage 2 child and they'll be off the wall very, very quickly. So everything is geared around the age, and for the younger ones, I do perhaps a 10-minute video max, no more than that. But the nice thing about video is they can stop at any point. They can pause it, they can go and have a run around the garden and come back. In terms of the time spent editing, well, I'd say I spend probably 4 to 6 hours putting together a PowerPoint presentation. I will then spend probably an hour getting everything set up for the video recording it, bringing music in when I want it, and cutting bits out. So probably an hour or so to actually edit. And I am a single take person. That may sound rather rash, but I do things on a single take. I never go back and re-record unless, during the middle of a video, the phone goes. Then I will perhaps have to re-record a bit. But generally, I am a one take and that's it. So all in all, including PowerPoint preparation, recording the videos, editing the videos, probably takes me somewhere between 6 and 8 hours for a 15-minute video. That would be probably about my timing.
Great. Okay, thank you, Graham. So in terms of the video style, on the educational guidance pages, we talk about different styles of videos. So, for example, video styles could include a talking head format. You could have a presentation plus voiceover, or perhaps a hybrid of the two. And there are, of course, other styles beyond these. Can you provide some insight as to which styles you use and how you decided what was right for you and your intended audience?
Again, it depends upon which key stage I am targeting. If I'm teaching the GCSEs, it tends to be the PowerPoint, nothing else. There's my voiceover, but I don't appear on those at all, because I want to get the students really focused on what they've got to do. They're not very humorous. I do try and add a bit of humour to everything I do, but with GCSE stuff, you're thinking, this is big time. We've got to really focus on this and get through this. But as I go down through the ages, so I tend to lighten up. So in Key Stage 3, the videos are shorter. I tend to lighten up a bit more funny things come in. I use different little funny characters, perhaps, because I think at Key Stage 3 you can do that. You've got a little bit more time, and the videos are shorter. Then you get to Key Stage 2. I did a little bit of research. I did some research of students at Key Stage 2 age, saying, what do you want the videos to be like? And you get back, I want them to be fun. I want you to talk in funny voices all the time. Sort of things. You think, no, I'm not going to do funny voices all the time. That is not quite in my specification. But what I found with the Key Stage 2, the one I've just finished, is I did a split talking head format, in that you've got the major slide, but in the bottom right-hand corner, you've got me. So all the time, the students can see me talking through the slide. And also I've got a Key Stage 2, I've got a little companion. I have a little dog that sits on the other side of the screen from me called Einstein. And what I can do during the videos is I can bounce ideas and words and things between myself and Einstein. And that seems to work really well. The students, the Key Stage 2 students, seem to really, really relate well to that sort of idea. I haven't gone down the silly voice routine, but it is much more light-hearted. It is there to be enjoyed. And that's what I want students at Key Stage 2 to do, which is to really enjoy the science and to want to find out more. So I've never done a full talking head format. I've never done that. I think they see enough of me when I do the mini version, so I don't want to do a full one. The GCSEs is purely presentation. And I'd say the Key Stage 2 is talking head, bottom corner, and Key Stage 3, a bit of both. So it's a bit of variety, all depending on which age group I am targeting and what I expect them to do.
Okay. And you mentioned the feedback earlier, and I think you had a few other bits of feedback you wanted to share. It'd be useful to also understand whether any of that feedback from students or parents has caused you to change anything about your videos.
Parents are really good. They're really honest, and they're really appreciative. And that's the biggest thing for me, is how appreciative they've been. I have put some videos in the past on YouTube, and what I really dislike on YouTube is the comments, in that people think they can put on there whatever they feel like. And so that's put me off doing YouTubes. But when you're just dealing with parents on videos, it is amazing the feedback they give you. And so they talk about how their child has suddenly come alive in science, how the child wants to go on holiday with a video in the back of the car so they can learn, how their child has severe autism, but through my videos they can actually learn science and really, really enjoy it. So the feedback has been amazing. Has it caused me to change anything? Not significantly. I've never had to change anything in terms of the presentation of the videos. People seem to like what I do. If they like what I do, I leave it put. I don't try and change it anyway. Yeah, I think that's what's happened. So I do listen to feedback. I've had the occasional criticism. I had one girl who was her learning disability was that she was hypersensitive to noise, and I seem to make lots of clucking noises when I'm not actually. I don't know what it was. We said I made clucking noises that put her off, and that was a bit of a setback. But it was a one-off. So apart from that one, I've had very few negative comments. I think you can count them on one finger, really. Lots of positives, and that's what really inspires me to keep going with it.
Of course, and it sounds overall that it's been a very rewarding experience from all the positive feedback that you've had. So I can see why you are certainly encouraged to continue. I just want to start wrapping up now, actually. So you've obviously created the Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3 videos. You've alluded to some IGCSE content. So can we expect to see any further video courses from you on Educator?
You can indeed. I'm just updating my IGCSE videos. There was a major specification change about 2 to 3 years ago in terms of content, and new textbooks were published at GCSE and all these things. And I'd already created the videos. And when it takes a year to create the videos, you don't have to go back and change them all. So at the moment, I'm having to look for gaps and fill those gaps in with additional videos. But yes, nearly finished. So very shortly, I'll be talking to you very kindly about putting those up on your site. And so there'll be complete IGCSE courses in biology, chemistry, and physics, without a shadow of a doubt.
Awesome. I look forward to seeing those. So thank you very much, Graham, for joining the show today. Your insight, I'm sure, will be very, very useful to our listeners who may be thinking of creating their own video. So thank you very much for that.
You're most welcome. Been really enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you. So, what did you think? As Graham relived those moments from his time as Director of STEM, his excitement was palpable, and I couldn't help but think of the Arthur C. Clarke quote, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." I hope that Graham's insight into his workflow for video creation was informative and has inspired you to create your own learning resources. If you are interested in uploading these materials to Educator, please do reach out via the website contact form, social media, or a trusty email to info@educator.com. You will also find information about getting started on Educator in the guidance part of the website. Don't forget that you can find links to Graham's courses in the show notes and the social media posts that accompany the release of this episode. He has some sample videos that are free to view, so do check them out. If you've got this far, thank you very much for listening. Graham and I were based in different parts of the country, so we recorded this episode through Skype. I hope it sounded clear to you. Finally, the last message, but by no means the least. Please do like and share the podcast. I hope this is the first of many, so knowing that the podcast is scoring well with you, the listener, gives me the motivation to create more episodes.